My family was secretly renting out my rooms and cut me off. When Dad called crying, I shot back. Tell Mom to wipe her tears with the loan papers. I am Evan, a 31-year-old male, and my parents cut me off via group text because I quit being their personal money bank. So I demanded $82,500 in debt repayments. What followed? So, get your popcorn. This is going to be entertaining. The text arrived at 9 p.m. On a Wednesday, I was halfway through a game session with my friend Ryan. Family group chat. Dad, we are done. Do not contact us again. Consider yourself shut off. I took up my phone, read it twice, then returned to my game. Ryan observed and inquired as to what was going on. I showed him the screen. Damn, he said. What have you done? I stopped writing checks. So here's the issue with being the family bank. You eventually lose sympathy for those who assume your wallet is their emergency fund. My parents had been sucking me dry for 6 years, with what they referred to as temporary loans. Loans that were never temporary, and certainly never repaid. My sister Lena noticed the message and responded with a laughing emoji. Then she typed, "About time someone said it." This told me everything. They'd held a family meeting regarding me. Sat around talking about how I was the problem while living on money I'd borrowed them that they had no intention of repaying. I could have typed out a comprehensive explanation and justified myself. Instead I said, "No problem, I'll have my lawyer send over the loan repayment notices tomorrow with interest." The typing indications immediately went nuts. 3 dots appear and disappear as if someone is having a seizure. Then my phone rang. Mom, Dad, and Lena, back to back. I denied every single one and turned off my phone. Ryan stared at me with a mixture of concern and admiration. "Dude, are you serious about the lawyer thing?" "Completely. How long are we talking?" I opened up my spreadsheet. Yes, I maintained a spreadsheet. $51,000 throughout the past 6 years. All loans are officially documented with legal agreements. His eyes widened. Holy. Yeah. And it doesn't include the tiny favors they conveniently forgot about. That just includes the official loans that come with papers. Here's what they never wanted anyone to know. I didn't just aid them occasionally, I bankrolled their entire lifestyle for years while they seemed to be doing well. Every significant loan included a promissory note. Every single one. Because my grandma Margaret instilled in me the importance of documenting everything, whether it is family or not. Dad borrowed $19,500 3 years ago for what he described as a business investment opportunity. The business never materialized. The investment appears to have been a fishing boat, which he used twice before selling for half the price I paid him. Never repaid a fragrance. Mom took out $13,500 for medical bills that turned out to be cosmetic operations she didn't need or could not pay. Also, I never received a cent back. Lena, a talented makeup artist, had borrowed $18,500 in numerous loans for anything from equipment rental to emergency car repairs. Her Instagram bio stated that she was the CEO and founder of a makeup line that did not exist outside of her bathroom mirror. She had given me back exactly $200 once and then requested for another $1,500 the following week. Those 3 large loans, $19,500, $13,500, and $18,500, accounted for the $51,000 I had documented with signatures and stipulations. There were other minor amounts scattered throughout the years. A couple hundred for utilities and a few hundred for car insurance, but they were more difficult to verify, and honestly, I didn't care about the money anymore. The main thing was plenty. I had been stupid. Not anymore. My phone suddenly lit up like a Christmas tree with texts. I took a quick look at a few of them as Ryan watched. Mother, how can you be so cruel? We are family. Dad, are you going to destroy this family for money? Lena, you are such a piece of garbage, I hope you know that. I showed Ryan the messages. He shakes his head. Man, they're really trying to turn this around on you. That is what they do. This is what they have always done. The messages kept arriving. Paragraphs describing how disappointed they were and how I was selfish. They never expected me to turn on them like way. Around midnight, Dad sent another SMS. Your mom is crying. I hope you are happy. I texted back, telling her to dry her tears with one of the loan papers she'd signed. I then silenced the group chat and went to bed. What they didn't know was that I had lunch with Grandma Margaret 3 days prior and told her everything. The loans, the numbers, the complete lack of payback or even acknowledgement, the incessant guilt trips, and the way they treated me as if I were an ATM that they could use whenever money was short. She listened to everything without interrupting. Then she asked me a question. Where do your folks live? I told her the address, and she dropped the bomb. She went silent for a long time. Then she added, "Hi, that's my house." I didn't get it at first. I assumed she meant she sold it to them years ago or something, but nope. She meant that it was still hers legally on paper. They had lived there for 8 years without paying rent, property taxes, or utilities. Simply being in someone else's home as if it were their God-given right. And then Grandma said something I'll never forget. I believe it is past time for them to realize the true cost of life when no one else is paying for it. That was 3 days ago. By tomorrow morning, everything would have changed. They had no notion about the impending storm. I arrived at Grandma Margaret's residence around 8 a.m. the following morning. She was already up, dressed, and had coffee ready. "Sit," she urged, pointing to the kitchen table. In front of her sat an accordion folder that appeared to have survived a battle. She passed it across to me and said, "Everything you need is in there." I opened it. Inside were decades of documents, including property deeds, tax bills, rental agreements that had never been signed, payment records that showed exactly 0 received, and loan agreements with my parents' signatures at the bottom. Wait. Loan agreements? I looked up to her. You also lend them money, right? $33,000 over 10 years. Her face remained still. They returned $800 to me once on my birthday, as a gift. No way. I felt my jaw clench. So it wasn't only me. They'd been conducting this fraud on her for a decade before they even approached me. Why didn't you say anything? Because I was stupid. I believed they would finally do the right thing. Something would click, and they'd realize they couldn't just keep taking without giving back. She sipped her coffee. I was mistaken. Some people do not learn. They simply grow better at defending it. She walked me through everything. My parents were reportedly in financial trouble in 2017. Dad had departed another job, his third in 5 years, since he didn't fit into the workplace culture. Mom had quit working completely, claiming chronic exhaustion, but she continued to shop and attend wine tastings. They had asked Margaret if they might stay in her rental property for a few months while they got back on their feet. She agreed, offered them a rent cut, and told them they could pay their utilities and property taxes instead. That was 8 years ago. They had never paid a single bill. Not one. Over time, they began to act as if they owned the property, renovating without permission, planting gardens, inviting people over, and referring to it as home. Margaret had been too polite to object, too concerned about provoking family conflict. But the loans were different. They had paper trails. "I spoke with my attorney yesterday," she stated. "I told him everything." He proceeded. "We have grounds for immediate eviction based on breach of rental agreement and non-payment, but the loans..." She cracked a grin. "Well, the loans give us leverage." She handed me another packet. This one already had collection notices, formal demand letters, and court filing templates, everything we needed to turn my parents' lives upside down. "Here's what will happen," she replied. "We're going to file payback demands for every single debt, including yours and mine, which totals $83,000. We're going to give them 30 days to pay in full or set up a payment plan, and if they don't, we'll file in court, get judgments, and place liens on anything they own. If they want to stay in my house, they'll have to start paying market rate rent of $3,250 per month, which they couldn't afford." I sat back in my chair and smiled. For once, I wasn't the one solving their problems. Instead, I was the one holding all the cards. Even with my help, they were barely scraping by, thanks to Dad's sporadic income and Mom's non-existent job. "They'll lose the house," I said. Margaret mentioned something else. Margaret's voice could have frozen water as she turned her laptop toward me. On the screen was a Craigslist ad for a luxury downtown apartment available for short-term rental at $190 per night. The exposed brick, industrial lighting, and art on the walls reminded me of Lena's room. She's been renting out rooms on Craigslist and Airbnb, pocketing the money and not telling anyone. My hands clenched into fists. How long? At least 18 months, possibly longer. My neighbor mentioned seeing different cars in the driveway at odd hours, strangers coming and going. I didn't think much of it at first, but then I found the listings, which she showed me. Lena, who manages the rooms in Margaret's house under fictitious names, has made at least $16,000 from this, if not more, according to the booking history I was able to find, despite the fact that she claims to be struggling and in need of loans to survive. "What do you need me to do?" Margaret smiled again. "Nothing yet. Just be ready. Because when we drop this on them, they're going to come at you hard. They're going to tell everyone you're tearing the family apart. Let them." I'm ready. Good. She closed the folders. Demand letters go out today. Legal eviction notices tomorrow. After that, we waited and watched them scramble. I left her place feeling powerful, not over them, but over my own life. The certified letters would be delivered in the afternoon. The eviction notice would be posted the next day, and they'd realize they'd messed with the wrong people the following week. Let the games begin. The letters arrived about 3 p.m. 17 missed calls in 20 minutes, 6 voicemails, and 34 texts. I was at work, sitting in a meeting about quarterly predictions, watching my phone vibrate across the conference table. My supervisor looked at me with worried eyebrows. Everything okay? Family emergency, I responded. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway, opening the messages. Mom, what have you done? We got a letter from a lawyer. Call me now. Dad, if you think you're getting a cent from us, you're out of your mind. We're calling the cops. Lena, you're actually trying to sue us. You're seriously that petty? I hope you're proud. I scrolled through them all. There was not one acknowledgement of the loans. I was outraged that I dared to ask for my money back. Then came a text from an unknown number. This is Richard's attorney. Please have your lawyer contact me to discuss these frivolous claims. This is bordering on extortion. I screenshot it and sent it to Margaret with a message. They hired a lawyer, and she responded right away. My situation is better. Around 5 p.m., Ryan met me at a diner near my apartment. I needed food and someone to vent to, who wasn't going to tell me to work it out or think about family. They got the letters, he said, and apparently asking for your money back is now considered extortion. He laughed. Your family is something else. They're about to find out what else I can be. I showed him the eviction notice Margaret had sent. 30 days to vacate. Market rate rent or get out. Ryan asked where they were going. Not my problem. Cold. I like that. He grinned. Wait, you don't know half of what they've done. I told him about the Craigslist rentals. My phone buzzed again, this time from a group text from my extended family, cousins, aunts and uncles. Ryan's face changed from amused to disgusted as he read about how Lena had been profiting off Margaret's house while claiming she couldn't afford to pay rent. Someone had started a group called Family Crisis and added everyone. Aunt Diane, can someone explain what's going on? Maria called me crying. Uncle Mark, I'm hearing lawyers are involved over what? Cousin Jenna. Evan, why are you suing your parents? And there it was. The smear campaign had begun. I typed a response. I'm not suing anyone. I'm requesting repayment of documented loans per the signed agreements. If they'd like to discuss the $51,000 they owe me, I'm happy to talk. I've attached a photo of one of the loan agreements. Dad's signature was clear as day. The amount was $19,500. The repayment terms were 24 months, and the date was 3 years ago. The group went silent for a solid minute, then Uncle Mark. Mom's loan was $13,500, Lena's was $6,500 for emergency equipment, and another of Lena's was $4,500 for rent assistance. Uncle Mark, what the heck? Dad jumped into the group and said, those aren't loans, that was family helping family. We never agreed to pay that back. I screenshotted his text and sent another photo. The loan agreement he signed explicitly stated, borrower agrees to repay in full within 24 months. His signature at the bottom. Your signature says otherwise. Mom joined. You're twisting things. We were in crisis. You offered to help. Now you're using it against us. No, I offered loans. You agreed to terms. You never paid. That's called breach of contract. Lena, you're doing this in front of everyone. You're such a vindictive jerk. Ryan was reading over my shoulder, shaking his head. Dude, they're getting wrecked. Aunt Diane, I believe we all need to take a breather here. Uncle Mark, I want to see where this goes. Evan, how much do they actually owe? I replied, $51,000 from me, $33,000 from my grandmother, all documented loans with signatures. The group chat exploded, with people taking sides, some saying I was being cruel, others saying if they signed agreements, they had to pay. Then Margaret joined the group. Grandma Margaret, since we're all here, please clarify. My son and daughter-in-law have been living in my rental property for 8 years without paying rent, utilities or property taxes. The agreed-upon rent was $1,300 per month, which totals $124,800 in unpaid rent alone. Add utilities and annual property taxes of $3,800 and $30,400 over 8 years, and we're looking at approximately $52,000 more in unpaid costs, totaling over $181,200 in housing expenses they never covered. They were also given personal loans totaling $33,000 that were never repaid. An eviction notice has been filed, and they have 30 days of complete silence. Mom left the group chat, then Dad, then Lena, and the remaining family members began asking questions. I let them talk, let them process, and then I dropped the final bomb. Additionally, Lena has been illegally subletting rooms in Margaret's house for profit via Airbnb and Craigslist without permission. We've documented at least $16,000 in unauthorized income over the past 18 months. I sent screenshots of the listings, Craigslist ads, Airbnb reviews, cousin Jenna, Lena, seriously, Uncle Mark, this is fraud. And just like that, the narrative shifted. They went from questioning me to realizing my family had been running scams on multiple people for years. My phone rang. Margaret, you're enjoying this too much. Maybe a little. Good. Don't stop now. They're going to play the victim. Don't let them. I won't. Meeting with my attorney tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Be there. We're accelerating the eviction based on the subletting. They've got 2 weeks now, not 30 days. Perfect. I hung up and ordered another round of fries. Ryan clinked his drink against mine. Here's to no longer being a doormat. I'll drink to that. My parents engaged in psychological warfare for the following 2 weeks. First, my mother posted a lengthy Facebook post about how her son had abandoned her in her time of need, how she had given up everything to raise me, and how this was how I would repay her. Friends from their church, old neighbors, distant relatives who didn't know the full story, all commented with support. How could he? And family should come first. And I'm praying for you. I watched it from the sidelines waiting. Then Margaret struck back, commenting on Mom's post with receipts. Maria, for clarity, you've lived in my home for 8 years without paying the agreed-upon rent. You borrowed $33,000 from me with signed commitments to repay within 3 years, and your daughter has been illegally subletting my house for profit. These are facts, not opinions, and I have attached the evidence. After posting PDFs of the rental agreement, loan paperwork, and screenshots of Lena's Airbnb account with earnings, the comment section quickly turned hostile, with people asking Mom questions she couldn't answer, calling her a scammer, and threatening to report the Airbnb fraud to the IRS. Mom deleted the post an hour later, but the screenshots remained. Cousin Tyler had saved it and posted it in the family group with the description, in case anyone missed this. Then began the guilt trips. Personal, targeted, harsh. Dad called me from a number I had not blocked. I answered by accident. You're murdering your mother, he said. No, hello, just that the stress is too much. If something happens to her, it's on you. Maybe she should have thought about that before borrowing money she didn't intend to repay. We were going to pay you back. When in what universe were you going to come up with $51,000? Silence. That's what I thought. I asked, anything else? You used to be a good guy. What in the heck happened to you? I still am. You're simply upset that I'm no longer a doormat. I hung up. Lena took a new tack, sending me a message in which she said she was receiving death threats from crazy people online as a result of what I'd done, that she was afraid to leave the house, and that if this persisted, she might harm herself. I screenshotted her message and emailed it to Margaret with a note. Was it manipulation or real concern? Margaret responded, manipulation. She's been posting Instagram stories at restaurants all week. I investigated, and she was correct. Lena's stories showed her out with friends, having cocktails and experiencing life. The entire "I'm afraid" thing was drama. I sent her one message back. You still owe $18,500. She didn't answer. The eviction procedure continued forward. Margaret's attorney was merciless. When my parents tried to argue that they had tenant rights and couldn't be forced out on short notice, he dropped a folder of documents indicating the illegal subletting. When I came home from work one day to find my apartment door scratched up, I realized that running an unauthorized rental business on someone else's property voids any tenant protections they thought they had. The judge approved the eviction, which took 2 weeks to finalize. At 2 a.m., someone had keyed "traitor" into the metal, and building security footage showed Lena doing it while wearing sunglasses and a hood. I filed a police report, adding it to the growing pile of evidence, and then Mom showed up at my work. She walked into the office, asked for me at reception, and tried to make a scene when I came down. Please, she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Don't do this. We'll lose everything. I kept my voice calm and low. No, Mom. You need to leave. We're family. Family forgives. Family doesn't steal from each other. How dare you? We didn't steal. You loaned me security. Security arrived and escorted her out. My boss later asked if I needed to take personal time, and I told him I was fine. The family group chat had splintered into factions, with some supporting me, others thinking I was being too harsh, and the majority just staying silent and watching the train wreck unfold. Uncle Mark reached out privately, and I've been thinking about all those times they asked me for money. My parents made their final move a week before the eviction date. I had never given it to them and had always felt bad about it, but that is no longer the case. Cousin Jenna sent me a message, and Lena wanted to borrow $3,250 from me last year, which I declined. She never spoke to me again, and now I understand why. They hired a new lawyer, a flashy guy who specialized in family disputes, and he sent me a letter threatening to sue me for emotional distress, elder abuse, and financial coercion. Margaret's attorney laughed when he read it. They have nothing, and this is a Hail Mary. Should I be concerned? Only if you're concerned about wasting 30 minutes in court watching their case be dismissed. Evan, this is Colleen, your father's sister. Aunt Colleen. I hadn't spoken to her in years because she had moved to Oregon and dropped out of the family orbit. The eviction was scheduled for 6 days later, and the loan repayment court date was set for 2 weeks after that. Hey, I heard what's going on, and I want you to know you're doing the right thing. Thank you. No, I mean it. Your father did the same thing to our parents. Borrowed money, never paid it back, and acted as if it was owed to him. I stopped talking to him because of it, and your grandmother bailed him out more times than you know. My stomach dropped. I didn't realize that. That's because they don't talk about it, they bury it, and they make you feel crazy for remembering. But you're not crazy, you're doing what I should have done years ago. We talked for 20 minutes and she told me stories I'd never heard before, like how Dad conned his own mother several times and borrowed from her friends. I didn't go to the house the morning of the eviction, and Margaret didn't either. We sent her attorney and a sheriff's deputy to handle it. It wasn't just me, it was a pattern, and now I understood why Margaret snapped. This wasn't about retaliation, but about breaking a cycle. I was at work trying to focus on a project when my phone started buzzing. Group chat activity, extended family texting, everyone knew what was going on today. Around noon, Margaret's attorney called. It's done. They're out. They left about an hour ago. Any issues? Your sister threw a makeup palette at the deputy. Missed. Other than that, no. I almost laughed. Of course she did. The property is now empty, and your grandmother's locks are being changed this afternoon. They took everything they could fit in a U-Haul, leaving some furniture, trash everywhere, and a couple of holes in the walls. We've already documented it with photos, video, and the works, so if they try to claim they left it in good condition, we've got proof otherwise. My phone buzzed. Message from an unknown number. We're homeless because of you. If anything happens now, it's all your fault. Blocked. They were cycling through phones trying to get to me. I blocked 4 numbers in 10 minutes. Then came a call from Aunt Diane. Evan, I just spoke with your mother. They're in a motel. They don't have anywhere to go. With all due respect, Diane, they owe me $51,000 and Margaret $33,000, and they've been living rent-free for 8 years. She claims they can't afford the first month's rent anywhere and will end up on the street. They've borrowed, stolen, and twisted their way through life, and it's finally come up with them. I'm not the villain here. Silence. I know, she finally said. I feel bad. So do I. But feeling bad doesn't change what they did. She sighed. You're right. I apologize for calling. Over the next 3 days, I received texts from 7 different numbers, all varying in blame, threats, and guilt trips. I documented them all and forwarded them to Margaret's attorney, who said, "This is harassment. We can file for a restraining order if you want." Not yet. Let's see if they burn themselves out first. Your call, but the moment it escalates, we move. 2 weeks after the eviction, the court date for the loan payback arrived. I took the day off work and met Margaret outside the courthouse. Inside, my parents sat on the opposite side of the room with their lawyer. Mom looked exhausted, Dad looked furious, and Lena was not present. When the judge called the case, both sides presented their evidence, and the judge said, "Do you have documentation proving these were gifts?" Their lawyer shuffled papers. "Your Honor, this was a family matter. The expectation was documentation. Yes or no?" No, Your Honor. But there are loans. Do you dispute the signatures on these agreements? Dad leaned forwards. Those were signed under duress. What duress? We were desperate. Being desperate does not negate a contract. Do you have evidence of coercion, threats, or anything else that would invalidate these agreements? Silence. The judge looked at our attorney. What are you looking for? Full repayment of $83,000 plus interest and legal fees. If defendants are unable to pay in full, we request a court-ordered payment plan with automatic wage garnishment to ensure compliance. The judge nodded, and the defendants agreed to repay the full amount at $850 per month until satisfied. If payments are missed, wage garnishment will be initiated, and court fees will be split between the parties. The look on their faces was priceless. Their lawyer tried to argue, but the judge wasn't having it. We walked out of that courtroom with a legal win, $850 a month, automatically deducted from their income. Beautiful. Margaret looked at me as we reached the parking lot. How do you feel? Like I finally got my spine back. She smiled. Good. Because we're not finished yet. What do you mean? There's still the matter of the illegal subletting, and I filed a separate civil suit for lost income, which goes to court next month. I blinked. How much are you going for? Whatever we can prove, plus damages from Lena, could be $20,000 or more. Damn, Grandma. I told you I'm over being nice. We parted ways, and I drove home feeling lighter than I had in years, but the next morning I woke up to 50 missed calls and a voicemail from Mom that made my stomach turn. Evan, your father is in the hospital. He collapsed last night. The doctor says it's stress-related. If he dies, it'll be because of you. I hope you can live with that. My stomach twisted as I gazed at my phone. I called Margaret and received the same message. It's bait. Do not take it. Should I visit the hospital? Do you want to? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, then don't. I didn't. I went to work. I lived my life. When others asked whether I'd heard about Dad, I answered yes, and left it at that. Dad was released from the hospital 3 days later. They had a stress-induced panic attack, not a heart attack, not a life-threatening one, and when the guilt trip didn't work, they realized they'd lost. Losing the court case broke something in them, and for the first time in their lives, they couldn't manipulate their way out. The $850 monthly garnishment hit their accounts immediately, automatically and unavoidably. Dad had gotten a job at a warehouse. Mom was doing data entry from whatever apartment they could pull together, and Lena had moved in with a guy she met on a dating app, another temporary host she'd drained until he grew aware. But the damage wasn't just financial. Aunt Diane stopped returning Mom's calls. Uncle Mark blocked Dad after he tried to borrow $500 to get through the month. Cousin Jenna publicly called Lena out on Facebook for trying to sell her a makeup service while still owing me $18,500, and their social circle imploded. Church members stopped inviting them to events. Margaret's legal suit against Lena proceeded to court 3 weeks after the loan repayment verdict, and I attended. Margaret claimed that she had been sharing the space with friends and that any money exchanged was for home expenses. Margaret's attorney presented a stack of printed Airbnb reviews, Craigslist conversations, and Venmo transactions that showed $20,000 in documented rental income over 18 months. The judge looked at Lena and said, "You operated an unlicensed rental business from property you didn't own, pocketed the income, and now claim it was just friends helping out. I was trying to survive by committing fraud." The plaintiff received a $20,000 judgment plus damages and legal fees. Lena stormed out of the courtroom, and I went back to work. Back to my life. The chaos was still going on around me, but I wasn't a part of it anymore. 2 months after the eviction, I heard from my cousins that Lena's boyfriend kicked her out of his place, and she's been sleeping in her car. They tried to fight it twice, filing motions to reduce the payments and claiming financial hardship. Both times, the judge denied them, saying they'd signed contracts and would now honor them. 4 months after the court judgment, they'd paid back $3,500 of the total $83,000. At this rate, it would take more than 8 years to repay everything. 8 years of being legally bound by the consequences of their choices. And I was happy with that. When Grandma and I met for lunch one afternoon, she looked better, lighter, and less agitated. She had refurbished the house after they had departed, and it was now an actual rental property with real tenants who paid on time. "How does it feel?" I asked. "Liberating?" She drank her coffee. "I spent so long trying to help them, trying to be the supportive mother, the understanding grandmother, and all it did was make things worse. You did the right thing and so did you." Don't forget what they did, don't forget how they treated you, and I won't, but I didn't think they'd come crawling back. 6 months after the eviction, my phone rang on a Saturday evening. It was Evan. Mom's voice was small and broken. What? How are you, son? Don't call me that. What do you want? She paused, then said, Can we talk in person? No thanks. I am asking. I have nothing to say to you. So just listen. That is all I am asking. She kept ranting for about 2 minutes and asking me to meet. I should have said no, but curiosity won, so I agreed to meet her tomorrow. The next day, I arrived early at a coffee shop, grabbed a corner table with a view of the door, and told Ryan I'd be fine. Mom walked in at 12:03. She sat across from me without ordering anything. I didn't respond, just waited. After the awkward silence, she finally spoke, and I wanted to apologize. Okay, we were wrong about everything. The loans, the house, the way we treated you, everything. I leaned back. What do you want? Nothing. I needed to say it. You said it. Anything else? She looked down at her hands. Your father and I are separating. That caught me off guard. What? We can't afford to live together anymore. The garnishments, the rent, everything. We're drowning. We blame each other all the time. It's over. I'm sorry. I wasn't. Lena is pregnant. She doesn't know who the father is. She's asking us for help, but we don't have anything to give her. Again, not my problem. I know. I'm not asking you to fix it. I just thought you should know. We sat in silence for a moment, then she spoke again, quieter. You were correct about everything. We used you, we took advantage of you, and when you finally stood up for yourself, we tried to destroy you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I just wanted you to know that I see it now. What did we do? I studied her face looking for the manipulation, the angle, but all I saw was exhaustion. Is that it? That's it. I stood up. Thank you for your apology, but it doesn't change anything. You still owe me $51,000, and the garnishment will continue until it's paid. I understand. Do you? Because for years, you pretended that consequences didn't apply to you, as if you could just cry and guilt trip your way out of anything. Her eyes welled up with tears, but she didn't argue. I walked out. 2 weeks later, Dad called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Evan, I understand you don't want to talk to me, but I'm calling to ask. No, to beg. Your grandmother cut me off completely. Margaret contacted me that evening. Your father left me 5 voicemails. I know. He requested me to speak with you. What did you say? Nothing. I deleted it. Good. She paused. We hung up and I sat on my couch taking in the weight of the last 6 months. I've spent 40 years enabling him, bailing him out, making excuses, and I'm not doing it anymore. If that makes me a bad mother, I'll live with it. You're not a bad mother, you're actually amazing, and so are you, kid. The chaos, the legal battles, the family implosion, and I felt good. Not in a vindictive way, not in a ha-ha, they're suffering way, but just free. For years I'd carried their problems, their debt, their dysfunction, and when I put it down, they tried to make me feel guilty for not picking it back up. But I didn't, and I wouldn't. Margaret kept the house rented, and she was making more in 1 month than my parents had contributed in 8 years. The garnishments continued month after month, like clockwork, and by the end of the year, they had paid back $10,000, barely a dent, but progress. I started dating someone Ryan introduced me to, bought a new car, and lived my life without the constant background noise of other people's crises. Every month, when that $850 garnishment hit my account, I transferred it straight to savings, not because I needed it, but because it served as a reminder that family isn't a free pass to use people. A reminder that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to stop carrying weight you don't own.